All right, strap in, everyone. We're diving deep into the AI world today. Specifically, some news that sent shockwaves through the industry.
Yeah, big shockwaves.
Nvidia, the company, they make those powerful chips that basically power AI.
Right, the brains of the operation.
Their stock took a major hit, like a huge GE hit,
It did, 17% drop.
which for, anyone not familiar with the stock market, that's like a free fall.
Almost unheard of, yeah.
So what on earth happened? Well, it all comes back to a Chinese startup, DeepSeek. They just launched this new AI model. They call it R1.
They're calling it R1. Yep.
And they're making a pretty bold claim. They say it's as good as, the models that companies like OpenAI are building.
Which are considered, top of the line, the gold standard.
But here's the thing. They're claiming they built this thing for a fraction of the cost.
like a tiny fraction.
We're talking millions versus what could be $100 million or even more.
Yeah, it's a crazy difference.
So, naturally, the whole AI wheel is buzzing. Like, did DeepSeek actually pull this off?
Right, because that's the big question, right? Is it even possible?
I mean, DeepSeek's saying their model, this R1, performs just as well as these big, expensive models.
That's the claim, yeah.
And they're saying they developed it for a shockingly low $5.6 million. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but
It is, but in this world, that's pennies.
especially when you compare it to, like you said, the rumors that OpenAI's GPT-4, that thing cost north of $100 million.
At least that's what people are saying.
So did DeepSeek actually find a way to, crack the code for cheaper AI?
I mean, that's the $100 million question.
Yeah, well, $5.6 million almost sounds too good to be true.
Right. It does.
Is anyone, questioning that number?
Oh, absolutely. There's a healthy amount of skepticism. Dylan Patel over at SemiAnalysis, he's done some digging.
Oh, yeah, I've seen his stuff. He's usually pretty on point.
He is. And he's suggesting that DeepSeek's probably spent a lot more on GPUs over time. Maybe even $500 million?
Wow, okay, so maybe not quite as cheap as they're making it sound.
Right, exactly. GPUs are basically the workhorses of AI.
Like the specialized brains.
Right, yeah.
They handle all those calculations that make these models work.
Exactly. And Dylan's point is that even if DeepSeek's specific training run for R1 was super efficient, they've probably got a ton of research and testing behind it.
Oh, okay, so the $5.6 million figure is just for this one model, not for all the work leading up to it.
Right. It's kind of like saying, I baked this amazing cake for $5, but forgetting about the cost of the oven and all the ingredients you already had.
Right, and years of practice, right? You don't just become a master baker overnight.
Exactly.
So yeah, the $5.6 million is making headlines, but the reality might be a bit more complicated. But even if it's not the whole story, DeepSeek's still making waves. They're kind of challenging this core concept in AI, the scaling law.
Right, which everyone's been, kind of following like a religion.
Yeah, the idea that basically the bigger the model, the better the AI.
Right, more data, more power equals smarter AI.
More power, yeah.
That's
That's been the recipe for success in the AI world.
the bigger the better.
And DeepSeek's hold on a sec.
Maybe not, yeah.
They're coming in with this leaner approach, and it's shaking things up.
Yeah, definitely shaking things up.
Stephen Yu over at Blue Whale Growth, he was quoted saying that DeepSeek basically leveled the playing field.
He said that, yeah. And maybe even democratizing AI development.
Which is a huge deal.
It is, yeah.
Because it means you don't need to be a Google or a Microsoft with billions of dollars to maybe create really powerful AI.
Right, the little guy can play too.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Nvidia and that massive stock crash. We're talking more than double their previous record drop.
Which, ironically, they also set back in 2024.
That's right.
Wild, right?
It is. So what happened? What are investors thinking?
I think they got spooked. Seeing this DeepSeek thing, and if it's a sign of things to come, maybe they don't need NVIDIA's expensive GPUs as much anymore.
So the tech that NVIDIA helped make possible is potentially, coming back to bite them.
It's funny how that works, right?
It is. But here's the thing. Not everyone's panicking. Pat Gelsinger.
Former Intel CEO, yeah.
He actually bought NVIDIA stock during this whole sell-off.
Yeah, he's betting on them long term.
So is he seeing something that everyone else is missing?
Mm-hmm.
Or is Wall Street just totally overreacting?
It's hard to say for sure.
And what does all of this mean for the bigger picture of AI development? Where do we go from here?
Well, DeepSeek's success is definitely feeding into this whole narrative of China, rising as a major AI power.
Right, challenging the U.S.
Yeah, it's almost like a technological arms race.
It feels like it. I mean, even former President Trump weighed in, called it a wake-up call for U.S. industries.
It definitely caught people's attention.
It did. But amidst all of this, Nvidia's not backing down.
They're pushing back.
They're saying DeepSeek actually validates their business model.
Which is an interesting take.
Yeah, it is. And this is where things get really interesting. They're pointing to a new focus in AI development called test time scaling.
It's a new concept for a lot of people.
It is. Test time scaling. Can you break that down for us? What is that?
So imagine instead of just making bigger and bigger models when you're training the AI,
Right.
you give it more computing power when it's actually being used, like when it's thinking, coming up with answers.
Ah, so it's like giving the AI a turbo boost.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does that relate to DeepSeek and this whole cheaper model thing?
Well, NVIDIA is saying that DeepSeek's R1 actually uses this test time scaling approach.
Okay, interesting.
And they're saying that could actually mean even more demand for GPUs in the future.
Hold on. So even though DeepSeek developed this model more cheaply,
Right.
the way it's designed could actually end up needing more of NVIDIA's chips.
That's the argument they're making.
Wow. Okay, that's a big twist. They even put out a statement. Let me find it here. Okay, here we go. Inference, which is basically how AI models use their knowledge to, answer questions,
Their answers, yeah.
right, requires significant numbers of Nvidia GPUs and high-performance networking.
Pretty bold statement.
It is. So maybe this isn't the end of the road for Nvidia, but it does raise some interesting questions
Oh, definitely.
about who the real winners and losers are going to be in all this.
Who comes out on top? Yeah.
Right. One analyst, Dan Hutchison, he thinks that DeepSeek's breakthrough might actually be a bigger problem for the companies selling AI services
Like OpenAI, yeah.
rather than for Nvidia.
Interesting. Right.
Because if these models get cheaper to develop,
It could really squeeze their profits.
makes sense. And then there are the short sellers
Ah, yes.
who made a fortune when Nvidia's stock plunged.
They walked away with a cool $6.75 billion in profits.
I mean, someone's always making money, right? Even in all this chaos?
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the market for you.
It is. So where does this leave us? What do we make of all of this? Is DeepSeek a fluke? Or is this like the beginning of a major shift in how we develop AI?
It's hard to say at this point.
Is it going to lead to a ton of innovation from smaller players?
Possibly.
Or will the big companies adapt and hold on to their power?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
It's definitely a lot to process.
A lot to unpack, for sure.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's dig a little deeper into DeepSeek's model, this R1.
Yeah, let's get under the hood.
How does it actually work? What makes it so different? That's what we'll explore next.
So I'm sure everyone's wondering what makes this R1 model tick, right?
Yeah, like under the hood, what's going on?
Well, DeepSeek actually went against the grain here.
Really? How so?
Instead of, just building a bigger, more complex model.
Which seems to be like the trend.
Right, like everyone else. They
Yeah.
focused on efficiency.
Interesting. Okay, so remind me, what's the usual approach? Because it seems like size has always mattered in AI.
It has. The thinking has always been, bigger is better. You cram in as much data as you can.
Right, more data,
More data, huge GPUs.
tons of processing power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just train that model for weeks, sometimes months,
Just to get it to perform well.
to get it to work. Yeah.
And DeepSeek was like, nah, we're going a different route.
We've got another idea.
You've got a better idea.
Yeah, they did. They basically focused on building a model that's, smaller and more streamlined,
More efficient.
but still really powerful. And that's, a game changer.
Especially when you consider the cost.
Huge cost savings, potentially.
But how did they manage that? What's the secret?
Well, it's a combination of things.
Okay.
Clever engineering for one,
Right.
and a focus on what they call algorithmic efficiency.
Algorithmic efficiency. What does that even mean?
So they really focused on optimizing like the underlying code, the algorithms that make the model work.
Okay.
Like they taught the AI to think smarter.
Instead of just hard.
Right, not just throwing more power at the problem.
So it's not about brute force, it's about elegance.
Exactly. And that's what has people so excited, because if you can get those same results
Right.
with a smaller model,
It opens up a ton of
a
possibilities.
ton. It's like, the difference between driving a gas-guzzling SUV
Oh, I like this analogy.
and a sleek little electric car.
Okay, yeah.
They both get you where you need to go.
But one is way more efficient.
Exactly. And in the AI world, that's huge. You think about the energy consumption.
Yeah, the environmental impact.
It all adds up.
Right. And it also makes AI more accessible.
Absolutely.
If you don't need a giant data center to run these things.
Exactly. More people can get involved.
Smaller companies.
Researchers.
Maybe even individuals.
Potentially, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty exciting.
It is. And here's the thing. DeepSeek took it a step further.
Oh, what did they do?
They made their model open source.
Open source, meaning anyone can access the code.
Anyone. Tinker with it.
Build on it.
They said, here's our work. Let's see what you can do with it.
That's pretty bold.
It is. Most companies are keeping their code under lock and key.
It's like their secret weapon, right?
Exactly. But DeepSeek went the opposite direction.
Let's collaborate.
Let's all work together.
Wow. That's a huge cultural shift for AI development.
It is. And it could have a big impact on, how quickly things move forward.
Right, because if everyone can work on it,
the pace of innovation could just explode.
Imagine, like, a global community of researchers all contributing.
It's almost like the early days of the internet.
Everything felt open back then.
Collaborative.
Yeah. But of course, there are potential downsides to think about, too.
Of course. Opening up powerful technology like this always raises questions.
Safety, security.
Ethics. How do we prevent it from being used for bad stuff?
Right, and make sure it benefits everyone.
Big questions.
Yeah, definitely something we need to be talking about. But even with all that, DeepSeek's approach is refreshing.
It is.
It's like, AI doesn't have to be this exclusive club.
Controlled by a few giant companies.
Exactly. So where do we go from here? What does this mean for the future of AI?
Well, Nvidia's definitely feeling the pressure.
I bet they are.
They can't be happy about a competitor shaking things up like this.
So what are they going to do about it?
Well, they're doubling down on our whole test time scaling argument.
Right. Emphasizing the need for those powerful GPUs.
They're saying you're going to need even more power to run this stuff.
So can we expect a new wave of, even faster, more powerful chips from them?
Oh, I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
It's like an arms race.
An AI arms race.
Exactly.
But what about the competition? Especially from China. How serious of a threat is Huawei to Nvidia?
They're a major player, no doubt. They've been making big strides in AI chips.
And they have the backing of the Chinese government, right?
Huge backing. China wants to be a global leader in AI.
So this is about more than just technology now.
It's about geopolitics.
National pride.
Who controls the future? It is. But while the big players are duking it out, what's really exciting is the potential for, smaller companies.
Startups, researchers.
To get involved.
DeepSeek showed that it's possible to challenge the giants.
David versus Goliath.
And that open source approach
could really level the playing field.
Yeah, that's what makes this so interesting for everyone listening.
Right. It's not just about big companies.
It's about the potential for AI to be more accessible.
More democratic.
More beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what can you do to stay ahead of the curve?
How can you be a part of this?
How can you harness the power of AI? That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. So we've seen DeepSeek shake things up, right? Challenge the big guys, maybe even open the door for more folks to get involved in AI. But what does that actually mean for you? What can you do to make sense of all this? Maybe even, get in on the action yourself.
Well, the most important thing is to, stay curious, stay informed. This AI world, it moves fast. So keeping up with the latest is key. Luckily, there's a ton of great resources out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For anyone who wants to learn more, websites like OpenAI, the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, those are great places to start.
Definitely. They've got articles, research papers, even tutorials.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff to help get you up to speed.
And don't underestimate the power of, community.
Oh, for sure.
There are forums online, social media groups, even local meetups.
Yeah, find people who are into this stuff.
Exactly. Connect with people, share ideas, stay inspired.
It's like anything. Learning is always more fun when you're doing it with others.
Definitely.
And you know what? You don't need a fancy degree to start exploring AI.
Nope, not at all.
There are tons of free online courses.
Oh, yeah, tons of them.
Platforms like Coursera, EDX, Khan Academy.
All the big ones.
They've got courses on everything from, the basics of machine learning.
Yep, start from scratch.
To more advanced stuff.
Yeah.
Like deep learning, natural language processing.
If you want to go deep, you can.
Yeah, and you can learn at your own pace from anywhere.
That's the beauty of it.
No excuses. But, beyond just understanding the tech side of things,
right.
It's also important to think about the bigger picture.
Right, absolutely. AI is going to impact, pretty much everything.
The way we work, how we interact with the world.
Everything, yeah. So we need to be having conversations
Oh, for sure.
about the ethical implications, potential risks.
Making sure AI is used for good.
That's the key.
We need to be thinking critically about this stuff, not just leaving it to the tech companies or the politicians,
So I think
right?
all of us.
This affects all of us, and we all have a role to play in, shaping the future of AI.
And who knows, maybe someone listening will be inspired to build the next game-changing AI app.
Maybe they'll be the next DeepSeek,
Shaking things up.
causing a deep dive-worthy event.
That's what we like to see.
Exactly. But even if you're not trying to be, the next AI superstar,
Just staying informed, staying engaged.
that's a huge step in the right direction.
It is, because AI is here to stay. The more we understand it, the better we can navigate all the changes it's going to bring.
Could have said it better myself. It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. The possibilities with AI are pretty mind-blowing.
They are. There's no doubt about that.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and who knows what amazing things we'll discover.
What's around the corner? Who knows?
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of AI. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized.
Yeah, me too.
Ready to keep exploring.
Absolutely.
And to everyone listening, keep learning, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep diving deep.